Welcome back. We had a little break because everybody got sick and then I went on vacation.
The COVID ravaged our household.
Just end to end. It was like, I was just hiding away because I'm like, don't ruin my vacation, don't ruin my vacation. And then I got sick anyway, but then I was like pretty done. But
yeah, I didn't see Keith for like 10 days.
I haven't seen you in a long time. We last played this game July 5th. Which was a while ago.
I was just like, I'm off work. Yay.
Yeah. And I'm like, no. No, it's, I've been talking about this before, but I got distracted by all the other stuff happening and also crying and so on. But, there's like a specific cadence to how I played this. How do I put this? I remember I played this game over the course of 3 days. Mm-hmm. And the first day I didn't get that far. I got past the beach scene. But I don't even remember if I made it through the first trial or not. It was just like me first realizing the game was pretty cool and playing the sci-fi part and so on in the evening. The next day, I played most of this game in one day because it keeps ratcheting the tension and it keeps getting more intense and stressful. And there's like various parts that would make me cry and so on. And I just needed some kind of like, just kind of like any point where I can get could get off the train or whatever. This is also when I was like in like my throes of like having constant sleep problems and everything. And so like I was like during this time I was continually not sleeping well. And playing the game probably made that worse. So I just slept even less. But what is it? I was up till like probably 3 a.m. or something, and I just what happened is like the whole like the third trial and everything happened, and like Amicus and Marco getting caught after Marco already died. Like Marco dies, Amicus gets caught with Marco when Marco comes back to life, and they finally do it, and then like everyone's gonna get executed. Like every moment of the game, you're like, someone else is gonna die. Maybe Amicus gets executed for all this stuff, and now Neferu's captured. Now Neferu's gonna get executed. Like you're doing like the thing after thing, and then fucking Marco gets killed, and then the whole like you're having a fucking breakdown watching like the like there's people who are like agreeing with me on the idea that like when you come back and you know the full context of the story and everything that happens in it and so on, you come back and you get hit by that fucking Amicus scene again, and it's worse the second time. It's fucking brutal to see that Amicus scene again. But it was right when Marco is being held in Amicus's arm in the blue glow of the codex or whatever after he's back alive again. And there's that, and Amicus has that exhausted, tearful face where he's smiling, but he looks horrible. Like that whole expression. That was the exact moment where I'm like, okay, I'll take it, and I just went to bed. Like that was my like, I'm not pressing a single time more, or clicking or hitting spacebar or whatever, because I wasn't using a controller on that playthrough. I'm just like, I need a break. I'm going to bed. I can't. And waking up that morning was the strange morning where I found myself in autopilot, just typing into Discord, coming out to Andrew and Bird and Colonel in a group chat. Just kind of like did not that morning plan on doing that, and I just kind of did it. And then as I was like kind of processing the fact that I was in the process of typing that and doing that, you walked in in that exact moment. And you were like talking about plans to go to somewhere or something, and I was just like,
we're going to the fish store. Do you want to go with us?
Yeah, and I was just like, just come read this, because I couldn't bring myself to like say anything, because I literally like on my screen was me coming out to those three, and then them sort of slowly reacting to it, and like you like walked in exactly in that moment where I'm like, fucking, my brain is just like the snow of a channel that doesn't exist on an old TV. Like it's just like
static.
It was just all back. It was just noise. I was just mentally flatlined. That was. I remember after that, because I'd come out to 4 people in the span of like 3 minutes. Like I went to take a shower after agreeing to go on with you guys on that trip, and I just like fucking like 1,000-yard stare in the shower, just kind of processing what the fuck just happened, because I just like did the thing that I specifically didn't do for decades.
I went downstairs and your brother was like, "Oh, is he gonna come with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, just give him a minute. He's taking a shower. He just needs a minute." I I wasn't gonna say anything, so I just was like, oh yeah, no, I think he's just having a moment, like he just needs a few minutes. He's taking a shower. And your brother's like, what? And I'm just like, no, it's everything's fine. Just like, don't worry about it. Get packed. Like,
But I partially credit this game to just beating me down or something, because I did a thing. Although I also am reminded of like I talked about this in the essay, but just there's parts of the final arcs of Beastars where he just like keeps ripping off the Band-Aid and just yelling at people. Like he just like he keeps doing his equivalent of coming out in that universe, which is admitting his relationship with Haru, just to family members, just on the fly, interrupting them mid conversation, just like, by the way, I'm in love with your daughter. Just like that's just like a thing. He just does it, and he's like, well, that's out. So those two pieces of media where I was at the time. Then we went out and we had our big old adventure all day, and just kind of tried to keep it together throughout all that. And then I came home and I played the rest of the game starting now that evening, which also took a while because there's surprisingly more game left than expected, and because we did get home kind of late. But
so you probably thought like the game was close to being over.
Yeah, I just got a little bit more to go, and it's like we're most of the way there, but there's still way more than I think of the old, like when English teachers would explain to you what a climax is, and they would show you like a 5-act structure, and the climax is in the middle of like a Shakespearean play, but we're used to like Hollywood movies where the climax is like 10 minutes before the credits roll. And like it's such a different dynamic overall, just fundamentally. But that's we got a bit more to go. But yeah, timescale wise, it's like just weird. It's funny to get here now because it's being at this point in the story, at this point in my life, in the replay is interesting because yeah, like I played the game, I came out to some people, and that kind of like crystallized a lot of the stuff that I needed to like finally write the entire Beastars essay, which came out almost exactly 3 months later on my birthday, which has now led to me coming out to like 400,000 people. Whoop.
So that's a big uptick, isn't it?
Yep. And then I met my boyfriend through that video, and then we're getting to the same part of the story of Adastra that where I came out, and at that part of the story now is when I just got back from a 5-day vacation with my boyfriend where we met for the first time and everything. And it's like, all right, 2022 is a fucking ride so far. Only in month 7. Jesus fucking Christ. There's like half a year left to go. I'm on my way to also doing like my first convention in like a month, and then my first furry convention in December at Midwest Fur Fest. And I'm
very proud of you, Keith. Like 2022, honestly,
2023 needs to calm the fuck down
immensely,
because 2022 is a lot.
Not in this context. I'm happy that all of these things
it feels
happened.
Like a fucking decade's happening in a year. I'm constantly excited and exhausted. It's so much. But it's I don't know. I have made dangerous choices that are the specific things that I've avoided and refused to do for a long time, and I keep getting rewarded for doing so.
Yeah, no, it's good for you.
And I wish I could be like, this is my advice, it's a great idea to do this, but for many people it's not, and that's just like not. I wish this was a more universal experience, because things have gone really well for me this year in a way that I never imagined would happen.
Well, when you came out, I was like especially the people that you came out to first is like, there's no like they are not gonna be bothered by this.
Yeah,
you're in the lucky position of having like an immensely supportive group of individuals, and you're in your fan base also. I know that's like a scary thing to do, but I was like, I honestly feel like the kind of fan base that you have will like most generally be very positive in this way. You have kind of like a very kind, respectful fan base. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but for a lot of people, like depending on like where they are, who their loved ones are, it's going to be a huge issue. But no, like you're very fortunate to have like you already live in a household with like a bunch of gay people, and then like we live in California, and like it
could be better.
Things could definitely better, but they could very easily have been much worse. So I'm happy that things worked out so well for you.
I will always be mad about Prop 8. What the fuck, California?
Oh, dude, I broke. That was probably the reason why I broke up with my first boyfriend. We got in a fight over Prop 8. I was like, are you fucking serious? It's just one of those things that comes out on accident where it's like, he just made some comment. I'm like, wait, what? And I always forget because it was like, because yes on Prop 8 was no on gay marriage, which was very confusing for people when they were voting. Because they yes on Prop 8 was no on gay marriage. I think it fucked a bunch of people up on the voting booth because they thought yes meant yes. But no, he was like,
read things.
I mean, why can't we just keep marriage like the way it is? Like, what's wrong with just like, know?
Yeah, that's what.
And I was just like, no.
That's what voting is when you keep things the same. That's when you vote yes on something. Hang on a minute. Blah blah blah. Good trip too. Like in the middle, I got to hang out with all my friends. Like you were there.
I was there.
We managed to get you, Bird, Marty, and Andrew in the same room, which is a trip. Because that's an eclipse.
Everyone was immensely awesome and cool, and I was so thankful to be there. They were just as wonderful as I had imagined.
Now it's time for the question of what the fuck is left to happen in the story. I thought.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit. I don't really know.
Here's where things get a little structurally surprising because there's just more story. I walk briskly through the hallways, trying to gather my thoughts. I just want to spend time with Amicus. Go back to Earth, see my family, come back to Adastra. But no, these parents are meddling with my life, seemingly rendering every choice I make meaningless. If they can do all and see all, why are they messing with me and Amicus like this?
Yeah, God.
I'm lost in thought as I turn a corner and run smack into something soft, furry, and white. Ugh, what in the name of the gods? It takes me a moment to recognize the voice, probably because of how disoriented I am from running into him. Sorry, Cassius. I finally focus on the indignant wolf as he angrily smooths down his fur. Watch where you're going! You could have knocked me on the floor. Do you know what a catastrophe that could result in? Despite his outrage, I'm actually kind of happy to see Cassius back to his old self. Just 2 days ago, he was bedridden, though recovering. A combination of Virginia inducing him to vomit and a quick delivery of an antidote left Cassius in a position to fully recover. Hello to you, Cass. Cassius fixes me with a narrow-eyed glare. Since when did I give you permission to use my shortened name, human? I shrug, simply adjusting my robe after having it disheveled from the collision. How are you feeling? Changing the subject, I see. Well, never mind. I'm feeling fine, thank you. I can at least eat solid foods now without retching, though I doubt I'll ever be able to drink wine again without doing so. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure you are.
Oh, gosh. Sassy as always. I've not forgotten how sassy Cassius is.
I shake my head, wondering why the wolf has to be so sour all the time. Maybe it's a side effect of always being second in line for everything. I see something similar in Neferu. They just go about handling it differently. Maybe it's because of his illness, always seen as weak and needing help, and he reacted by being a dick. Then again, it could just be because he is a dick. So, what are your plans now that I've abdicated the throne and I'm leaving in disgrace? You're not leaving in disgrace. I think people are really going to... I'm already being made fun of for being one of the shortest-serving emperors in the history of the Empire. I'm the main topic in all the comedies at the moment.
What's that one, there was that one president that was president for like 4 days or something? There was one president that was president for an immensely short amount of time. I think he died or something. Gosh, I'm great at history.
Yeah, there definitely used to be more anomalies, and nowadays everything is just the same. I say nowadays, but I remember both Nixon and Clinton did not have complete terms. Cassius takes a deep breath, closing his eyes. Anyway, Marco, I wanted to thank you. I almost get whiplash from the sudden change in tone and topic. What? Oh, don't make me say it again. I'm simply thankful for you putting the Empire on course that is somewhat tolerable, at least. As opposed to being ruled by Cato. Yes. While I might not believe that my brother is what's best for the Empire, at least he cares for it, and I suppose that's all I can hope for. Weren't you negotiating a position with Amicus? Cassius looks at me suspiciously, though I have no idea why. I suppose almost being assassinated and also being sabotaged by everyone in the palace has made him a bit weary. I suppose you'll tell you anyway, so yes, I'm looking to become the chief of social affairs. He rolls his eyes at my lack of reaction. In other words, I will be making sure that Adastra's most vulnerable are taken care of, that all will someday receive the financial, social, and especially medical care that they need. I perk up. Oh, good. That's kind of what you were all about with your campaigning, right? Yes. It'll be nice to focus all my energy on that, rather than the bothersome politics that come from being emperor. I don't envy Amicus.
I was gonna say, that's all so positive and kind. But then he did that thing where he outed his brother on, like, live TV. Like, remember that? I was like, he should have just ran with this campaign of, like, helping people, and maybe that would have been more effective. But
he did.
I mean, kind of.
But he did it the horrible way.
Yeah, I did it like some weird backhanded, like, I see people suffering and you do nothing.
Like, this is an incredibly contrived scenario you can't put most people through. But I think we might have just reformed a fascist.
Wow, I wish it was that easy.
Because, like, fascism often, that populist, like, approach to it specifically hinges on, like, it really leans heavy on these arguments about helping, like, the little man and everything, and, like, this idea of, like that there's some sort of outside force that is the reason everything is bad, and you're trying to appeal to, oftentimes, like, the lowest common denominator, and in a lot of, like, lower class people, specifically with the argument that all of their problems aren't caused by class, and they're not caused by, like, you know, the idea of being ruled, apparently, but essentially, like, some kind of outside force, like, it's usually immigrants or something like that. So in this case, they're using the children as an analog for immigrants in their fascist arguments that Cassius uses to rile up his base. Like, there's a very direct connection to be made here. And instead, now he's going to be a little socialist, maybe. And that's great. That's a big leap. That is an important, better approach to actually trying to figure out how to help the people that he would... Because I don't think he was lying about wanting to help people, or even caring about the Empire. He just had horrible ideas of how to go about it, and a lot of it might have been because he was kind of being, like, groomed by Cato to have, like, a specific approach to all this, and kind of technically just make him emperor, but not really.
Not to give him too much credit, Cassius. I mean, I bet maybe, like, he just was like, oh, I have all these great plans for everything, but at first I need to get elected, and I think the wolf people will really respond to this horrible rhetoric, and so maybe if I just, like, am, like, inflammatory and, like, do all this ranting, they will just elect me, and then I can secretly just do all the kind things I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get elected first, and according to Cato and the world that I live in, this is going to be how I get elected. I'm going to throw out some things that people are going to get really riled up about and love.
Yeah.
But in reality, like, I have all these really ambivalent, like, not ambivalent. I have all these very kind ideas. Cassius might be a better character than we thought, but no, I'm not giving him all that credit yet.
But he did he did a lot of bullshit.
I've not forgiven him.
And also, he did really fucked up things to Amicus. Meanwhile, poor Amicus is like, you would never kill me. And it's like, you're up to some shit. You really did not understand the stakes of it being the emperorship on the line. If you were not ready for Cassius to betray you in any real way. Jeez. He eyes me closely. I know you're very close with him, so please, if I must ask anything of you, it is to make sure that he does not forget those outside the triumvir cities. Their situation is desperate, and if we are truly going to reap fortune from an alliance, then they should be the first to benefit, not the Adastran elites. It's one of those rare moments that Cassius is being completely genuine with me, so I nod earnestly. Of course. I also plan on making sure that Amicus remembers the Woven Children, and to right the wrongs of what the past rulers had done to them. Because after all, that is what happened to, Amicus has paid directly for the uneven healthcare and so on, the lack of caring for the poor and the sickly, because that's how Marco died the first time.
Oh yeah, they just
Yep. The exact thing that Cassius was talking about did come up. There's a lull in the conversation, so I try to think of something to say, to thank Cassius for in return. And, thank you for understanding our position, for deciding to step down when asked. You threatened me with outright humiliation if I did not. I try to hold in a sigh of my own at the wolf's frustrating attitude, even if my attempt at some form of diplomacy with him was clumsy. Well, thanks anyway. Cassius grunts non-committally, then looks past me. Anyway, I must be going to the city. I have an appointment. That's when I remember Alex. I never did see Cassius's reaction to finding out about the cat's treachery. Amicus had been furious when I told him, and had practically had to hold him back from marching out into the gardens and strangling the cat himself. He was especially furious when I told him that I made a deal with Alex to keep him from facing consequences of sabotaging the entire empire. Yeah, bit of a unilateral call made in a moment of emergency. Amicus had settled on banishing Alexios from the palace to some high-security apartments in the center of Adastra City. Cassius has been visiting him there ever since.
Oh.
While I don't know what the state of their relationship is, I suppose even high treason isn't enough to stop Cassius from seeing the cat again. They must be pretty close, even closer than I initially thought.
I think their feelings are genuine, despite all the treachery.
Yeah, fucking... Alexios is a messy bitch.
Yes, he is.
Cassius is so much more comprehensible, but Alexios did so much to hurt the person they're supposedly genuinely in love with, and it's a lot to process. You're just like, what the fuck, buddy?
Yeah, when he was like, oh, my whole point was to cause chaos, I was like, oh yeah, well, you did that. You did a good job. You really
Congrats,
did.
I never want to see you again.
You just fucked everything up in every kind of way.
I'm curious, but stop myself from asking, as I know that would only lead to more glares and sneers from the wolf. So instead, I bow and step aside, a bit surprised when Cassius bows in return, even if it's mostly just a half-hearted nod. I watch the white wolf disappear through the main entrance, and I wait a few moments before taking the same route out into the gardens. While the conversation with Cassius had distracted me for a bit, my mind wanders back to what Amicus had just told me. I can't stop the feeling of constriction that seems to wrap around me, bound to the will of these supposedly all-knowing creatures. I sit for a while on a bench, contemplating everything, while my hand absently caresses my repaired neck. I'd pressed a bit harder against my skin a few times, and didn't like the unfamiliar shapes and edges that I felt.
Gosh, horrifying.
Enjoy the body horror. Just, your life is dependent on just existing with something wrong in your neck all the time forever.
There's just some parts in there you don't know anything about.
Yep. And it's just,
hopefully they work forever.
It's just a crucial load-bearing thing that's the only way you're alive in your body. And it was put there without your consent by the people that just demand undying loyalty from you. And are sending you on a mission that you have to obey them on.
Yeah.
How could that go? Great. Like some kind of Suicide Squad.
This is Katana.
I wouldn't recommend getting killed by her. Her soul traps the
Your soul traps other souls.
This is Katana. She's got my back. I wouldn't recommend getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of her victims. She could just cut you down like mowing the lawn. I can't believe they made me cry about that guy in the next movie.
I would give my
because he's such a trash
I
character
know.
in the first one.
He was great in the second one. In the better one.
His dumb rabbit shirt.
Katana, I would give your sword my soul, but it's already lost in your beautiful eyes.
Just slowly memorizing. I can't believe it, how much that whole fucking thing is in my conversation.
I just like that he has to yell it over the helicopter, like noises, but then also like it makes it an unbearably awful scene to watch because he decides to have a whole paragraph to say instead of just saying this is Katana and then talking about the rest later. He just yells over the helicopter for like 3 sentences straight, and I'm like, stop it.
She then does nothing.
He doesn't.
You could forget she's in the movie, which I do.
Gosh.
Because her sword is more important than her character in that movie. It's so dumb. Still talking about Suicide Squad 6 years later. 6 years ago. I'd asked Amicus how the parents had done it. How they had the time to place the machinery in my neck and also make me start breathing again. Of course, it turns out it's one of those parental tech things that no one really understands. It seems to have happened instantaneously, as if I'd been whisked away somewhere else to have surgery before being placed back in the archives. Apparently, when Amicus's father had asked the parents to restore Kato's sight, it had just happened overnight. The old wolf surprising everyone when he walked into the dining room with his brand new visor, like the tooth fairy. It's gonna be uncomfortable to sleep with.
Oh yeah.
It seemed pretty attached. Like, I don't think that thing comes off. That had been over a decade ago. And that gets me wondering why the parents did that, if they knew Kato would go on to do the things he did. Yeah, you should probably wonder that.
Yeah, God.
He blatantly got in the way of their plans, did he? Seems like something he would have. They probably knew about. Why would they let him hold such an influential position in the Empire, let alone restore his vision? Interference is to be kept to a minimum, I could practically hear the monitor say. I sigh, just sort of wishing that the parents didn't exist at all, that this other wasn't eating at the edges of our universe, which is apparently the root cause of all this, if it exists. I wonder about the other. I'm like, for Cassius, it was a very useful tool to talk about an outside problem that is the cause for all your problems. So I do wonder if the other even exists. That's something else I don't understand. From what I gathered, the Galaxius had already known about the other, but vaguely. Amicus had almost described it to me when I first arrived here, and had been told that all life originated from the same source, except for the other. A different kind of life. So different from us that we can barely understand them. But now we know that they're out to get us, or something. I just can't help but feel so distant from all this, the result of the struggle between us and them being millennia away. We don't even know how many millennia. As I'm becoming more and more depressed over all this, I hear footsteps on the path. I look up, half expecting to see Alex, even as I remember he's been banished from the palace. It's Neferu. He's strolling along the pathways, paws behind his back, with his usual suave smile plastered on his muzzle. I have to wonder how he keeps the expression on all the time, as it's clear he doesn't see me until he comes a bit closer. When he does spot me, his ears flick up, and I get a glimpse of white teeth as a smile broadens. I smile back, even though I'm not in the best mood to chat at the moment. Still, I scoot over to make room on the bench, and Neferu greets me with a bow, along with a
Ahotep be with you,
before he sits next to me, crossing one leg over the other.
You gotta make room for Neferu. Like,
yeah.
If Neferu walks up towards you, fool, you scoot over on that bench, okay? You let that man sit down.
Look at that goofy little tooth that always sticks out.
He's so cute. Beautiful day.
He says it wistfully, and I nod in agreement.
Though I can see that you're not enjoying it as much as I am. Is everything all right, Marco?
I'm about to give him a generic answer before I sigh, leaning back on the bench. No, not really, Neferu.
I find that a bit surprising considering the way things have gone the past few days.
I shrug. I mean, aside from almost dying, I guess everything here is good, but out there... I nod up at the sky, at space. I just don't know what to do.
Perhaps I could offer some advice. He's going to offer it whether or not you want it, so just take it.
I remember that Amicus has told me to keep the revelations about human civilization a secret, at least until the parents give further instruction. I don't know, I think I'm just stressed about going home. About how I'm going to do it, you know?
I definitely understand, for I am in a similar boat. Unfortunately, I have little advice on that particular matter.
I glance over at him, watching as he rhythmically bounces a black foot about, wiggling the toes and claws. Is Kimia still pissed about what happened?
Oh yes, furious. They're still threatening to cut all diplomatic relations with Adastra if Amicus doesn't make things right somehow.
Make things right? Like in a sequel or something?
Yes, despite the fact that my family very nearly despises me, they actually despise that our name has been sullied by woven disrespect.
How you were almost executed.
That, and the fact that Kato released the footage of his attack on my person before the scheduled execution. It's been in heavy rotation on the news channels ever since.
Oh, he went nuclear. He was absolutely sabotaging this as much as he could. He poison-pilled it even though he didn't succeed. Oh. I haven't watched much Adastra TV after seeing the reenactments of my own death. Go figure. So I guess I've been missing Neferu getting kicked in the balls over and over again.
It's just like a gif that's been going around.
Yeah. Like the fucking, like when he gets hit in the face by the soda, I think, and like in Sorry to Bother You, it just becomes a meme. Well, you know wolves, they just like any sort of drama.
It's been spread across the entire Galaxius. I suppose seeing a Chemian in such a position is rather amusing to everyone, siblings and children alike. Dude, poor Neferu, that really does suck.
Congratulations, you're viral.
Your humiliation to your entire planet.
The worst way. I look over at Neferu again, but his light, carefree demeanor continues as he simply seems to be soaking in the scenery.
He's still having a nice time, though.
Are you doing all right? Neferu looks at me then, smile becoming a bit more warm.
I am fine, Marco, but if I'm being truthful, I am embarrassed. But that's nothing new for me.
I frown.
But he always comes off so cool. That's funny. Is like his whole family doesn't like him, and he's an embarrassment. But look how cool he is. He's so buff and awesome.
But what if they're all cool there?
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh god, he's hot. Oh no, the planet's all hot.
It's like what Americans think Greece is like.
There's a lot of places that Americans just think everyone's hot in.
Yeah. I can count the number of times I've seen you embarrassed on one hand, Neferu. You're downright shameless. I smile to lighten the words, and Neferu just chuckles.
You probably know by this point that I'm not often genuine. It comes with being a diplomat and the Pharaoh's son.
There's a lull in the conversation as we both just watch the gardens, listening to the birds and watching the bees hover over from flower to flower. That's when I'm reminded of something. So, what made the Chemians want to start an alliance? Isn't it pretty groundbreaking for siblings to work together? Like, isn't it that against the purpose of the Galaxius? I play dumb like I don't already know it isn't. Neferu quirks an eyebrow at me.
This is a surprising question. Well, to put it simply, we studied the earliest histories of the Galaxius and came to the conclusion that it was never the intent of the parents for us to be competitors. If you don't know, the goal of a sibling race and its children is to achieve parental status. To do that, we must be able to achieve intergalactic travel. We're slowly realizing that this may not be possible without the cooperation of all sapient life in the galaxy.
I nod in understanding. So it seems like the Chemians were already hip to the grand plan, either by actually figuring it out themselves or with the help of their own parent. This makes me wonder if they might know more about the thing lingering on the edge of the universe. Do you know much about the other? Now Neferu turns on the bench to really look at me, furrowing his brows.
Another interesting question. Did you have some sort of experience with the parents when they healed your wounds?
Yeah, kind of. Just really vague stuff, so I'm just curious about it, is all. I try to make it sound like it's not a big deal. I'm trying to remember how many siblings there are. At some point, I became convinced that there is one sibling for every parent. But then I think somebody might have said I think somebody in the Discord claimed that there was like 8 parents and 14 siblings or something, so they might not match up, so I'm not sure. Because I was thinking in time, did I say my theory about the parents?
Which one?
About them being human?
No, but that would be interesting.
I think a bit about the story by Andy Weir called The Egg, where every single human on the entire planet's actually the same person, reliving every life one by one, and when they live every single life that's ever existed on Earth, they then become a god. So the planet's an egg. Which is just that's a trip of a short story. Oh
my gosh, that's horrible. I just started thinking about that. Oh goodness.
It's one person lives every life, but they forget that they're living every life while they're living each life. But then every single time they come back, they talk with another god, I think, about what's happening essentially. And the short story itself is actually just the conversation between this person that is every person and this other entity between lives.
Did all the people exist on the planet at the same time, or was each one populated when they had to start a new life?
Well, I interpret it as non-linear time, so you live every life that has ever happened.
Then you die order. And you basically go back, and
you're endlessly reincarnated as every single life, but every life has obviously already happened, at least from the perspective of
So you'll witness your life happening even if you have not lived that life yet.
It's it's like the idea that every single person that you've ever loved or wronged or so on, you'll eventually live their perspective of that entire thing and also their entire life and context around that in an endless web throughout all of civilization and life.
I hate this because that means that I've been Donald Trump before. I've been every person that I'm not fond of.
Yeah.
I've also been Mother Teresa.
It's a trip of an idea, but
yeah,
it makes me. And I'm not quite going all the way in that direction, but the parents, the fact that every single, it's suggested at least based on everything we know about the siblings so far, that it's probably true. Actually, I think they did just come out outright and say this recently. Is that every single sibling tried to uplift the humans and failed, but then they also don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm what if that's not true? What if all of these races are actually genuinely based on human civilization and not the other way around?
Well, I mean, it's
what if the parents are humans from the future, essentially overseeing their own birth as a galactic civilization, having created the siblings based on each of their cultures?
Well, I mean, we interpreted it initially as we basically... whenever we were in you could interpret it we were inspired to have the kind of cultures we have because of interactions with
that's the explicit implication they make with
but I mean siblings. it could obviously be the other way around where it's if we
because
if we were creating civilizations we would definitely base them on what we knew and it's you have wolves on Earth too, and it's yes, I mean, but at the same time, you basically could have been inspired by us. It's very easy to do that the other way.
They're essentially subverting the it's the whole aliens don't like white people, but the But really specifically, that's like the most popular association is between aliens and the Egyptians. And, like all their big
that and like the Aztec is a big one.
like their big, like the pyramids and other like big huge structures. Then like, what does this mean? What could it be for? And it's like, it must be for aliens. And then that inevitably leads to the idea that like there's Egyptian aliens out there, and Egyptians are the way they are because of the aliens
because
that
of
they got their
alien
culture
interaction.
from. And so this one, I appreciate the initial implication this game has, because they lean into that exact idea, but then they're like, what if that was all of human culture? What if every human culture came from a different alien group, actually, and we're all equally weird, derivative people, instead of just being weirdly racist and being like, the Egyptians couldn't do that themselves, they must have been alien.
Yeah, like, cultures aren't capable of creating wonderful things so long ago.
Like, that's why, what I really specifically appreciate is the fact that, like, racists and fascists have a tendency to very specifically latch on to Rome as being like this great empire that of what humans could have been once upon a time, but then evil outside immigrant forces ruined Rome. And like whenever they talk about the fall of Rome, it's always about things that conservatives don't like, basically, as being the causes of the fall of Rome, and it's very exhausting. So to lean into the Egyptian trope, but then simultaneously be like, but also Romulus was an alien, like the Romulus story is also aliens. Like that's great. Like that immediately subverts that entire idea. But I keep wondering if it's going to go one layer deeper, and we're going to find out that actually it's this recursive thing, and the fucking aliens were actually created by the humans. And, like, the reason why we're such a weird fucking special snowflake race that everyone's interacted with simultaneously or whatever, but also doesn't remember doing it, might be because actually all of us, we like, what if we created everyone?
Like, we were the origin, fundamentally.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I have no idea.
Well, then all these cultures are doomed, because we don't know what the fuck we're even doing with ourselves here on Earth. So, good luck, guys.
But this is the fun part where I get to theorize, because I don't know. So there's some blind let's play going on here where I get to have questions finally, because we're getting to the parts that I don't have answers for yet.
I mean, like, is there implications?
And if you played the future games and anything is coming, shut the fuck up.
Oh, okay.
Games aren't done yet, so don't talk about them to people that haven't played them yet. Even if there's really frustrating people that are like, oh my god, I know a thing, and they're asking questions, I'm gonna answer. No, shut up. I will literally ban you from the entire channel. Do not talk about future games. Because they come out like one, essentially like a chapter at a time on Patreon. And they take years to finish. And I'm like, I'm not playing these in pieces. It took 7 years for Echo to get made. 7 years. We're going to play it now when it's over and they finished it.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck on a cliffhanger that's going to take you like a year to figure out.
Yeah.
Because that could be potentially heartbreaking.
Meanwhile, Echo is getting Echo has a sequel in progress and a prequel in progress, and Adastra has a sequel in progress and a midquel in progress, which will make sense later. But like, I'm not playing any of those when they're not done. That's annoying. I already didn't like playing Life is Strange once every 3 months or whatever. That's like a bad format. But it makes sense because it's how they get made financially. But I can just wait. It's cool. Even if I theorize endlessly about things that might already be proven wrong and so on. Anyway, that was my thing about the parents.
But you're talking about that. I'm like, they obviously must not answer this, or else Keith is just being like an asshole where he knows something and he knows he's right about something. And he's like, I wonder
look at
if
my clever theory about what they're about to say right now.
Wow, I'm so smart.
I try not to make it sound like it's not a big deal, or I try to make it sound like it's not a big deal.
Well, it is an entity that spreads through the universe every few billion years. It originated from somewhere other than the original source of life, the source from which we all came.
Source of all life. It just makes me think that they were all created by the parents from one source. You know? Mm-hmm. Also, they're all species that are on Earth.
I know.
So, like...
but like I said, you could go either way with that influence. Like, it's very easy to... Like, you could definitely be right.
Yeah, but they hand-waved it away as an easy explanation of the idea that all of creation essentially has all life ever has essentially the same origin point. And so it suggests that basically the same set of animal types exists on every planet, and just a different one becomes like the dominant species and becomes sapient on each planet. And that is like, it's kind of like a fun hand wave you can do to just set up your universe and be like, listen, we just want to have space for you, shut up. But Howley's crazy, and when these games never give you easy, simple, fun answers, and so like every time it goes somewhere else, so I'm just like, I don't know if I can trust this explanation you're giving me, Neferu, or like I feel like we're gonna find out something more insidious about that original point of life, but we'll see. His choice of words is confusing me. Is it like alive?
Is it alive like you and I? No, not really. It's more of a machine, I suppose. On the edge of life, but it needs sapient life to exist.
Oh, like a virus.
Yes, though even viruses originated from the original source. The other is truly something different.
Like antimatter, but life. And it feeds on life. Our life, I mean?
First, I should say that what we know about it is very, very limited, and the majority of that information is likely wrong. Really just ghost stories.
Well, what are these ghost stories? Neferu sighs sexily, and I realize that he's not exactly interested in this topic.
How to put it? Well, it's thought that in the half-dozen or so times that the other has spread through our part of the universe, it has left behind small, patchy portions of itself. Like missing a no or something. Yeah. It is technically all around us, but very weak, though it is thought that highly concentrated portions of it attach to tangible things or occasionally pass through us.
I feel a little tingle down my spine. And what does it do? Neferu shakes his head.
I'm sure your people have stories of phenomena that are unexplainable. Perhaps an abandoned building that is inhabited by malicious spirits. Possibly a creature that defies all logical explanation, yet sporadically appears in a particular forest.
Siren head.
Yeah, we call that Slenderman on Earth, Neferu.
Wait, like supernatural stuff? I give the jackal an incredulous look, and he shrugs and laughs.
So the stories say. They also say that sapient consciousness is used by the other to project these manifestations, and that the sapient's reactions to these projections feeds the entity. Huh, that's weird. Personally, I feel that legends surrounding the other are simply a catch-all for anything that is feared or poorly understood, or just the product of a bored society.
I think back to what little I know about ghosts, monsters, even aliens or UFOs, and immediately the idea is too ridiculous for me to accept. Why haven't I heard of this while I've been here?
You probably have, but you just didn't understand the topic at the time. Either way, it's never a serious worry on anyone's mind considering how rarely this entity makes contact with our side of the universe.
I just stare at the ground, not really sure what to say. Like Neferu, I find myself not very interested in the topic anymore, and our discussion moves on. We talk of Neferu's plans, when he might return home, and how I might help him secure the alliance. Eventually, he gets up to return to his room for a nap, leaving me to sit on the bench in silence. Imagine napping in a universe where days are this short. Like, what do you have time? You're just gonna be tomorrow on accident.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the shorter days thing. I mean, I know you get more days,
geez.
but there's something that's stressful about this to me. It's like, what am I doing with my laundry?
If I'm being honest, the conversation has left me feeling a bit strange about how this whole intergalactic war the parents are preparing for. It sounds more like we're getting ready to fight off an army of space ghosts rather than anything real. I sit there for a long while, opening my mind a bit, kind of hoping that the monitor will swing by and dump a little more information on me that I can work with. Even though I know that's not really in his nature. The problem is that I already know that I'll probably do this mission. In the end, I kind of feel like I have to trust in these parents, despite how awful they're being to me and Amicus. It's for the good of all sapients, right? And if it isn't, well, I don't want to imagine we're doomed at the hands of some maniacal space gods.
I try not to think that either.
Yeah?
I just ignore that
for
thought.
fun. What if my pain is a show?
God's laughing at us.
Nah. Things stay predictably quiet. And as I'm thinking about heading back to Amicus's room to see if he's returned, Com's voice makes me jump.
Amicus would like to let you know that he is currently in the bath, and if you would like to, you can join him. However, he wants to make it explicitly clear that it is your choice, and that if you need more time...
Thanks, Com. I'll head there now.
Yes, Marco.
That fucking... the awkwardness of Amicus's stammering mess. All being just depicted in detail.
Only if he wants to.
He's just... Oh... I just love this anxious idiot being like, "Hey, come, let Marco know that I'm in the bath." But like only if, like I mean like he just starts like immediately realizing.
I don't mean anything by that. I mean,
immediately,
you know, like,
it just like it just shatters. He's like, "Oh fuck!"
If it's convenient.
The swagger is just gone, and it's just all reported literally.
What a dork.
We're gonna see Amicus again.
Hooray!